What's up, everyone? Good morning. Welcome back to Shaw Local's Bears Insider Podcast. I am Kyle Nabors along with Sean Hammond. It's been a little bit since we've been with you guys. I came down sick over the holidays, unfortunately. It seems to be going around, but feeling better this morning. Excited to talk some Bears Falcons, Sean. But more than Bears Falcons. I don't know about you. I don't know if it's because we've had 2 weeks left in the regular season, if the Justin Fields finality is starting to set in for people, but that talk really seemed to accelerate this week. How about you? Do you feel that same way?
Well, I mean, I feel like this is always around the holidays is always a hard time to cover the team, and especially given the just where this team is at. And yeah, it is starting to feel like these could be the last couple of weeks where we're talking to Justin Fields, and it's hard, I feel like we've been asking him these big picture questions
He's
for really
tired
for
of it.
months. And it's like, what more is there? What other, there's only so many ways to ask the same questions over and over again. And I don't know what else he can say. He's going out there to play his hardest, obviously. And um yeah, I mean, personally, I'm ready to just find out what's going to happen here. I think all Bears fans are. We've been talking about the head coach and the quarterback for months, really since that 0-4 start. That's been the topic of conversation. And I mean, I'm ready to figure it out. I'm ready to hear what Ryan Pohl's plan is.
Me too. I think Justin Fields is tired of getting asked the questions. I think you guys are tired of asking him the questions. We got 2 games left here in the regular season. We're going to spend most of today, I have a feeling, talking about Justin Fields in the quarterback position. It's the topic that's really on everyone's mind, Sean. You
Mm-hmm.
can, of course, go to shawlocal.com. You'll find a very interesting column up there from our columnist Mark Silverman from Waddle and Sylvie right now that has gotten a lot of feedback. Sylvie, he's made his decision. He's decided it's time to move on from Justin Fields. It's not an outright calling Justin Fields a bust. He likes Justin Fields. He's like 36, 3 years, 36 starts. It's a long enough time to make a decision whether or not if you have your franchise quarterback or not. And the fact that you are still asking the question, it was funny. I was texting with him earlier in the week as we were talking about his column, and I said, I'm still waffling. He goes, waffles are for breakfast, not for franchise quarterbacks. And you know what? That's fair enough. Anyone who's made that decision or that's come to that conclusion with this sample size, I have a hard time arguing against. I am not there. I'm on the opposite side of it, Sean, but I have reached the point where I think that is a conclusion that you can make.
Why are you not there, Kyle?
I'm not there because I'm not there for a couple of reasons. First is I think whether you're a Bears fan or just a football fan in general, and you watch the league long enough, you can pick out busts at the quarterback position over the years, right? The first round bust. I don't think anyone is willing to go and call Justin Fields a flat out bust. In fact, when you hear about people talking about no one is talking about Justin Fields busting out of the league or needing to find a way like a pillow contract next year, like a prove it year or something like that, right? It's essentially, well, he's going to be starting somewhere next year. It just probably isn't going to be for the Chicago Bears. So if that's the case, so like he certainly isn't a bust. Um, and then the fact that like there's still a lot of upside there, right? There's still a lot of upside, and you're not you're not drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall and immediately jumping into a franchise quarterback either. So it's not a for sure thing. So when you
Mm-hmm.
combine those two things, I'm still in because of those things. But like I said, I think we have reached a point. I'm having a hard time arguing against people. And make sure you go to and read Sylvie's column at shawlocal.com. It's linked down in the description if you are watching live on YouTube this morning. He does a really good job of laying out his argument. I have a hard time I have a hard time arguing against people who are out at this point.
I was talking about this with Hannah, my wife, and she knows what's going on, but she obviously doesn't follow it as closely as you and I, Kyle. And her comment was, "Well, couldn't Justin just go somewhere else and be really good?" And
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. That's 100% a real possibility if they move on from Justin Fields. Whether it's, I know everyone points to Atlanta, but whether it's Atlanta, whether it's some other team, he could absolutely go. You could trade him, and he could be really good on a team that has all the right type of weapons. He's got the skill set to be a really good quarterback. That's why I do agree with what you're saying. I don't think he's a bust. I mean, he's not a Zach Wilson level. He hasn't been Zach Wilson level bad. He's if he was a bust, he wouldn't be starting in year 3. Like you would have made a change a long time ago. He would have been benched for somebody. No, he's absolutely got the skill set to be a really good quarterback. I've been saying all along, saying it on this show, saying it in my writing and at shawlocal.com, like, have patience, let the season play out. And the more and more we've watched, the more and more I feel like I'm kind of on the opposite end of this, Kyle, from you, in that I feel like if you think there's a chance that Caleb Williams or Drake May can be the next Mahomes, the next Herbert, whoever you want to compare them to, if you think they're that talented, I think you got to take that lottery ticket. I know that there's always a risk when you do that, but I think that's what you got to do, because I don't know if Justin Fields might be a really good NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be the type that gets you that high.
Yeah. And this is where, as Bears fans, at the end of the day, you're going to have to trust Ryan Poles to make this evaluation. And this is kind of the crux of the argument, or the main part of the argument I want to focus on, or I don't like the arguments that you have to make a change at quarterback to reset your contract window, because you still have Justin Fields under control next year. You can exercise the 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm.
You got Justin Fields, for the price of a starting quarterback in the NFL, is at a controllable cost for plenty of time if the Bears want to figure that out. I don't think that is a reason you should make a change. As our good buddy Hub Arkish likes to point out all the time, just because you draft a quarterback number 1 overall. Listen, every single year of the NFL since it existed, there has been a general manager that has convinced themselves that a specific quarterback is the guy that their team needs to change the fortune. That very well may be Caleb Williams. I'm not saying it's not. But Justin Fields was that guy for Ryan Pace. Before that, Mitch Trubisky was. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always going to be that guy. There's never going to be a sure thing. So, like, if you make those evaluations on a purely football standpoint, and you decide Caleb Williams is your guy, like, he's got a high enough ceiling, and you don't feel that Justin Fields can get you to that ceiling at this point, I'm completely fine with Ryan Poles making that football decision. I want it to be made for on-field performance, and not those outside factors.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I know the 5th-year option is going to cost more than what Justin's making now, but it's the going rate for a free agent, for a quarterback these days is 40, 50 million. And it's not going to cost him that much to use the 5th-year option. So yeah, you're still getting a starting quarterback who at that point would have 4 years under his belt at a relatively cheap cost as far as the going rate for starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And I agree that shouldn't be your deciding factor. It's all got to be about the play on the field. If you think there's a guy that can really elevate your team, then I think it's worth considering taking him. Like I said, I'm leaning that way, but this is such a tough call, Kyle. I mean, this is the toughest one I can remember in recent years anyway. Just not even just the Bears, but just like teams across the league. Like it's a tough call either way, and I could be convinced of either decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone who's joining us live this morning on YouTube, do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up. If you're watching this later, leave a comment as well. I go back, look through them, appreciate everyone that does all those things that help other people find the show. We really do appreciate it. We'll jump into the comments here a little bit later. I want to get to some thoughts before we do. And it's just Sean and I, no Jake this morning, so it's a little harder to kind of track the comments, particularly. And I'm not complaining. I love to see all these comments coming in, but when things are popping in there and trying to keep track of my own thoughts, I don't want to get too distracted. We will get to your comments a little later in the show. Sean, so based on where we are talking so far, I want to go to the next point here, which is I've seen a lot of comparisons this week with Lamar Jackson. And I think that's probably because Lamar Jackson right in the MVP talk again this year. Sylvie used Lamar Jackson as a comp in his column. Do you feel like that's a fair comparison to Justin Fields? Because I'm going to say no, but I'm going to let you first off. What do you feel that's a fair comparison?
I don't. No, I don't. I mean, I think Lamar Jackson is and has proven to be a better passer, over his time in the NFL. I know there's, a couple of years ago he had a rough season passing, and look, the injuries have kept him off the field some. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who threw 36 touchdowns during his MVP season, and I don't think Justin is quite at that level yet. Um, is that something that's within his capabilities? Maybe, you get the right pieces around him. I think Lamar Jackson is really underrated as a passer. I think people see the running aspect of his game, and they say that's what he does. That's all he can do. But I mean, he's directing everything out there for that offense, and I think he's really underrated as a passer.
I agree, and I'm happy to hear you actually disagree with that comparison for a different reason, but that's a good point. My reason I disagree with the comparison is Lamar Jackson walked into an organization built and ready-made to help him progress along. For what, like Lamar Jackson coming out of Louisville was not a ready-made product. It was clear it was going to take some time. But like the Baltimore Ravens are a top 5, top 3 organization in the NFL over the last 2 decades. He walked into a spot where like things were set up for him to succeed. And I'm not surprised to see that. I think the better comparison, and I've said this a lot over the years, has been Josh Allen to Justin Fields. And you look at not just from a quarterback, apple to apples in terms of the type of physical athlete they are, but also the way what he walked into, what Josh Allen walked into the building in Buffalo was Sean McDermott being hired in 2017. Sean McDermott comes in there. They go I want to say they went 9-7, 8-8, something like that with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Like this wasn't good enough. They drafted a quarterback. It still took some time with Josh Allen. You look at those stats, the first 2 years, QBR, his passing rating really struggled, but you saw that jump in that 3rd year with him. I feel like that's a comparison to make a better comparison than Lamar Jackson. And maybe the biggest hit I can then put on Justin Fields there is there hasn't been that jump in the 3rd year that you saw out of Josh Allen.
Yeah, you look at that 3rd year, and is that the year they got Diggs too? I believe
so.
That was 2020. I mean, his 3rd year in the NFL, he threw for 4,500 yards and 37 touchdowns. When you talk about a quarterback making a jump, that's what you're looking for. And I think you look at. I know Justin missed a couple of games with the thumb injury, but that's not what you're seeing in Justin's stat line. And obviously, the wins are a factor too. I mean, Josh Allen won 13 games that season, and I know that's a team stat. It's not fair to pin that all on the quarterback, but I do think that is an interesting comparison from a team building standpoint in terms of where the team was at when they drafted those 2 quarterbacks, Justin and Josh, and where they are now. And I agree with what you're saying about the Ravens situation. It wasn't that was not the same. That Ravens team, those guys have been good every single year. Joe Flacco was there Lamar's first year, wasn't he? That was his last year in in Baltimore, and then they made the switch late in the season, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two
Joe
very different
Flacco,
situations.
by the way, just out there dropping dimes again last night.
Man,
Do you?
what the heck? This guy
I'm
just
I've
keeps
gone
doing it.
I've gone from not wanting to watch any Cleveland Browns football to actively rooting for Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns to keep winning football games.
I
That's a
kind of
fun
want them to
story.
get to the Super Bowl so that we can
I,
have the $4 million conversation for that's what his full contract. If they get to the Super Bowl, he's gonna make another like 2 million or something.
dude, I'm all in on it. Let's do it.
That would be fun.
so I'm trying to build an argument here about Justin Fields. And it's kind of funny because it sounds like I'm probably building an argument against Justin Fields, but I'm going to pivot back here. I promise. So now we go in. I talk about the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills comparisons. The next part I want to build on here, and I think anyone who's watched tape, anyone who's gone and watched Tim Jenkins, make sure you do. I'm blanking. It's the QB school. I know Mike B's in the chat right now. He can give me the right YouTube channel. Tim Jenkins, QB coach, does wonderful breakdowns on a weekly basis, including on Justin Fields. He's on 670 to score with Dan Bernstein and Lawrence Holmes on a weekly basis. Does a really good job of breaking down what Justin Fields has done this year. And I went back and watched what Tim said in the game, this past weekend's game against Arizona. Sean, by any chance, have you had a chance to see Tim's breakdown from this game?
No, I didn't. I should go back and watch that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but either way, I think you'll be able to. There was a play early in the game to Darnell Mooney. All it was a quick out route, get to the sticks, get to the line of gain, hit to the right side, and hit that right sideline and pick up your 4 yards, move the sticks on 3rd and 2. I want to say it was 3rd and 2, right? You saw Justin Fields make that throw a couple weeks ago, if you remember, where he snuck it in, where Darnell Mooney made a really good play on the outside shoulder towards the sideline. You know what I'm talking about, where it looked like the cornerback should have been able to get in and maybe pick that ball off. So, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was the exact same play call, except this time, as Tim Jenkins pointed out, instead of just taking the snap, immediately planting his right foot and firing the ball to Darnell Mooney, for some reason, Justin Fields hesitates, takes the extra 2 steps, and then fires the ball to Mooney, which allowed the defensive back to drive down and get in there and break up the pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really simple play that we've seen Justin execute. But there, in a very simple play, on a where if he just does where he's supposed to, it would have been an easy first down, right? That to me comes down to like, that's an argument against Justin Fields. But as Tim Jenkins then goes on, as he goes through another dozen plays or so, you get so many highlight reel plays out there where you just go, there's no one else in the NFL that is making that play, that you end up going. And this is where at the end of the day, where Ryan Poles is probably, or where he should be making the decision, right? Is like, can you fix that simple mistake? Can you get Justin to stop hesitating and doing that little extra 2-step drop, so where you pick up a 3rd and short easily when you're supposed to, so he can then extend drives to make those huge plays, right?
Yeah, it's Mike commented here, all things quarterback by Tim Jenkins. And it's funny you say that, because I haven't watched Tim's most recent one, but I've watched a lot of JT O'Sullivan does the QB school, and
yeah, JT does a great one as well.
The one of the things he's been on Justin all season for is the pace of his dropbacks and how slow it is, and the nonchalance of his whether he's taken 2-3 steps, whether he's taking more steps, like it just seems slow. And that was something that I really noticed, like watching that Cardinals game. Kyler Murray, it was quick, man. He was back in, and I know he's 5 inches shorter than Justin, so maybe it just looks that way. But he's dropping back quick. His footwork is moving really fast, and Justin, it just seems a little slow sometimes. And you wonder, is that something that they can clean up? Is that something that they've tried to clean up and they just haven't been able to? I don't
They,
really know.
I think it's gotten better throughout it's always been an
Mhm.
issue. I mean, you can go back and listen to this podcast since Justin Fields was drafted. It's been Hub Arkish's biggest concern with Justin Fields. Uh, it's something that's really hard to teach. Sometimes it just clicks. Sometimes it clicks all at once for guys too. I
Mhm.
do think that it's gotten better for Justin. And here's the one of the big things that helps in his favor is he's a really, really intelligent guy that is working really hard at it. Like, I don't want this to sound bad about Mitch Trubisky, but like they're not on the same level intelligence wise. Like their ability to kind of read defenses and learn. With that being said, like it still hasn't fully clicked for Justin Fields, and I don't know if it's going to. And that's where we don't know. That's what's going on behind the scenes. Like that coaching staff, like I guarantee you, like yeah, he's getting it. Is he ever gonna fully get it? And like they're having that conversation, like what's it gonna take? Like can we do it? Like I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we were talking with Andrew Janoko, the quarterbacks coach, last night, and he was raving about how much more they can do with Justin now than they could, a year ago, when they first started week 1 of 2022. And yeah, you can tell in the way. I know there was that clip where Justin was mad at Luke for something in the game or whatever. I don't know if you saw that, Kyle. He was kind of yelling back at the sideline. It's like you can see that Justin is like, he gets it and he knows what they're trying to do, and he's got opinions on what will work and what won't.
Yes.
And I don't know. It always kind of with Mitch, not to go back to a couple of years ago, but it always kind of felt like they were having to really tailor that offense to make it workable with him.
Yeah. Like I don't know how to put it. That doesn't just you're leading them by the hand. And this goes for like you've seen that whether come on. And if you cover the game, like you see it with players when you're around them enough. Like there are some guys you see it click with them, like the mental part of the NFL game, and like they can go off on their own. And there are some
Mhm.
guys a couple years in where they still need direction from coaches, and you're like, that's not coming.
Mhm.
That's not the case with Justin Fields.
No, it's not. I think he can. I think he is at a point where, now that he's been around the block, he really understands what they're trying to do. He can pick up. I think if, even if you did bring in a new coordinator, I think he'd pick it up really quickly. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, if they're going to keep Justin and get a new coordinator, but I would have no issues with Justin. I know people say, oh, another offense. He's had how many coordinators in his 3 seasons? I think he would pick it up pretty quickly.
I want to throw up a comment here that just popped in from Mike Quick. He says that to me, that touchdown pass to Mercedes Lewis is what illustrates what the modern NFL offense should look like. Talking about that play late in the game where Justin Fields rolled to his right. And essentially, there was one defender there between him and Mercedes Lewis. The defender tried to play the run. Justin
Mhm.
threw an absolute rocket right into Mercedes Lewis's chest. That was a nice play. Mike, I'll give you the counter argument there, though. Like, pretty much any halfway mobile quarterback in the NFL should be able to make that play, though, right? Like, but that being said, that is a correct play. Get to the edge, make the defender make the decision. I don't know if that. I don't know if Mike, you were trying to say that's like a great idea, or like a great example for Justin Fields. Although there were several plays in that game, Sean, where Justin Fields, I felt, did a really good job of making something happen, including early in that game. He had a 53 yarder to Cole Kmet coming
Yeah.
across the field that I was really impressed with.
Yeah, no, that was really impressive, and it sounds like from talking to the team this week that the Cardinals were doing some things to keep DJ Moore bottled up. They were giving him a little extra attention, and that's why you saw Cole Kmet have such a nice first half. It's a bummer that he had to leave that game with the knee injury. We haven't seen him in practice this week, so we'll have to see if he's back out there on Friday. But yeah, that was a really nice throw. I thought, I think that's the thing with Justin is like you have these really nice plays, and then you have that interception where he's targeting Khalil Herbert down the, right after he had just an explosive, electrifying run. He drops back and a really just a bad throw. Yeah, I don't know what the plan was there. If it was, a bad throw on Justin, if the route wasn't right, whatever, it just totally killed your momentum.
I think it was just a bad throw.
I think it was just a bad throw. I'm pretty sure that's what Justin said, if I recall.
Yeah, from the looks of it, it was just a bad throw. If you're gonna make that throw, you got to put that ball outside and towards the sideline there. And that's fine. Like that's gonna happen occasionally. Like any NFL quarterback that it was a bad timing. But like I don't mind the decision. It just was a bad throw.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I mean, the play was there. Like you could have, there was an angle where you could have made that throw and he just didn't make it.
Yeah. Quickly want to go ahead and say that Shaw Locals Bears Insider Podcast is sponsored by Ken Nelson Auto Group, proudly serving the Sauk Valley area for over 55 years. Ken Nelson Auto Group offers 10 new vehicle franchises in one convenient location right here in Dixon, Illinois. Shop a great selection of new and pre-owned vehicles at KenNelsonAuto.com. I'll try and jump into some of the questions and comments over here on the side here as we wrap up here over the next 10 minutes or so. Sean, do you get any sense of where things are at with the coaching staff here with 2 weeks left?
No, it's hard to say. I mean, we haven't heard from Kevin Warren or from Ryan Poles in a while. I don't expect that we will before the end of the season. I am still operating under the idea that at least Matt Eberflus could be back next year. I don't know where you're at, Kyle, but I just kind of get the feeling that this might not be the end, given how they've sort of the resurgence of that defense and how they've. I mean, they spent the last 2 years building this defense in Matt Eberflus's image, and you're seeing results. Do you want to break that up? Does Ryan Poles want to break that up? I don't know. Yeah, the offensive coordinator thing, I mean, I could absolutely see them making a change if they keep Flus.
If I'm with you, I think Matt Eberflus has done enough that he's made a case to keep his job. I'm not saying that's the right call. I'm just saying it's the more realistic call because, as you're saying, like they're making an evaluation at quarterback. Like, you just spent 2 years developing this defense, drafting players, acquiring guys via trade to fit Matt Eberflus's scheme. Are you really going to make a change there and start over on the defensive side while also potentially I assume if you make a change at head coach, that increases your likelihood that you're drafting a quarterback at number one overall. So you're starting over. You're starting over on the offensive side with a new quarterback. You're starting over potentially with a new defensive scheme. It's a lot, I don't know with where this roster is after you've spent 2 years of a rebuild if you're restarting that clock again.
I also believe that there's a world in which you keep Flus and you still draft a quarterback. I know people don't like that, or it seems like Bears fans don't like that possibility, but I don't think you can rule that out. I think the coach and quarterback thing on the same timeline is a little bit overblown. I understand on some level why people want that, but at the same time, there's plenty of examples across the NFL where that hasn't been the case and it's worked out just fine.
I can see the argument both ways. Yeah. I don't really know. I don't know if starting completely over how much of a benefit that is, which is weird. Again, like I'm not a fan of Matt Eberflus. I'm not a fan of his in-game decision. I wonder about his overall upside as a head coach. I'm trying to think about it in the most realistic fashion though. Like if I'm Ryan Poles, like how do I approach this? How do I approach this? One from a football perspective, but there's a human element to this, and
Yes, exactly.
there's a human element to this, and Ryan Poles isn't going to do something that is going to expose him to losing a job either. You know what I'm saying? So like, how does he handle all of those things?
Yeah, and I mean, let's not forget that Ryan Poles, Ryan Poles hired Matt Eberflus almost 2 years ago now, and I mean, you better be sure, you absolutely know that he let Matt Eberflus know that we're going to tear this thing down. This is going to get bad before it gets good, and so given that where things started, I have a hard time seeing Ryan Poles fire his head coach when he's really only had one season with a legitimate team, because 2022 was a wash. You were tearing that thing down. You knew your defense was going to be bad. You were just trying to figure something out offensively. Um, if Ryan Poles was telling Matt Eberflus, this is how it's going to be for a year, hold on tight. I can't see him moving on from that after 2 years. I really think that from the GM perspective, the continuity would make sense. I know that we had Sylvie writing about continuity is not a reason to keep your coach. I don't know if a GM would agree with that.
I don't know. I think publicly they would call it continuity. I don't think we give enough weight to the human aspect to this. Like these are careers, these are jobs, these are egos. And you're talking about Ryan Poles now 3 wins last year, 6 wins this year. Like you tear it down, you make a change at coach, you draft a quarterback. Like I think at that point, assuming or like the expectations, you can't go into next year with a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach. It doesn't matter what else they do with the roster and assume they're going to be a playoff team, right?
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
you have to
totally agree
assume.
with that.
So you assume at that point you're talking about more growing pains. You're probably talking about 6, 7, 8 wins max again next year. Does Ryan Poles believe he can absorb another season like that where it doesn't look very good? It looks like a young team trying to figure things out. Because while that sounds great on paper right now, fans are saying like that, well, yeah, like you got to make changes. Let's not kid ourselves. If they still look bad, if they're sitting there with 4 wins come Thanksgiving next year, you think people are going to be like, no, Ryan Poles is the right guy for the job? They're going to say, hell no, get him out of town. He knows that. So, like, that comes into this.
I think Ryan Poles could justify it too, in that, like, yeah, you're talking about Matt Eberflus came in here as a first-time head coach, and you're talking about developing all these young players. What about giving your coach a little time to get used to his role? I'm not saying that that's the right call. I'm not saying that that's what they should do. I'm just saying that the argument could be made that Matt Eberflus, is a better head coach now than he was 2 years ago. And personally, I don't think you're going to bring in another first-time head coach. I mean, I would think you're only making a change if there's a slam dunk hire out there. If Jim Harbaugh is there, if Bill Belichick is there, sure, maybe you consider those guys. I don't know if you want to go for another.
Please, not Bill Belichick.
Yeah, no, I'm not advocating for that. I don't. From a media perspective, that would not be great.
I'm
but
gonna have to run
I'm
to
just
the liquor
saying,
store if they hire
if
Bill
it's
Belichick.
me, if I'm in charge of the Bears, I'm not making a change unless there's a guy who has the experience, has that proven ability to win games. Because just like drafting a quarterback, picking a first-time head coach from the coordinator pile is also a crapshoot. You could wind up with, the next great thing. You could wind up with Brandon Staley. They all look good. All the resumes look good,
and just just because you pick a veteran coach doesn't mean it's going to work out particularly well either.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, whether you hire yourself your John Fox or going back to Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, not exactly. That is not going well in Denver, not just on field. Although I mean, they turn it around from like the early season woes, but there's a lot of weird stuff happening behind the scenes with that franchise. I don't know if you saw the report about like like them apparently asking Russell Wilson to give money back after they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, just weird things happening out in Denver.
I mean, I think they got to find a way to get out of that contract, only because
it ain't happening.
What, they got 4 more years on that thing, or 3 or 4 more years?
They're not getting out.
I understand why they're trying, but yeah, I mean,
it's like 36 million in dead money next year and 45 million in dead money the year after that. Like, they're not getting out of that contract. And if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm getting every single dollar of it.
And look, if you're Sean Payton, you knew this coming in. You knew this guy had signed this massive contract. You knew that you were going to have to figure out a way to make it work with him at least for a couple of years. And yeah, things are getting weird out there in Denver.
Couldn't happen to a better guy than Sean Payton. Anyway, so I we got plenty to talk about here over the coming months. I want to quickly point out, or I want to quickly say, we're going to have a lot of fun this coming offseason, though, because whether the Bears make a change at quarterback, offensive coordinator, head coach, general manager, we don't really know, because we don't know what Kevin Warren's going to do, Sean. But the Bears also have 2 first-round picks, possibly 2 top 10 picks. There's a lot we can talk about, because you start getting into scenarios of like, what if they trade one or both of those picks? Like, could they take Marvin? Someone I saw float like the possibility. What if you take Marvin Harrison Jr. at or trade the number 1 pick and then take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2 or 3, but then you still take a quarterback at like number 8 or number 9. You just don't get Drake May, and then you let Justin Fields and a quarterback compete for the next couple of years. Like, there's a lot of fun scenarios to get into with this team, because they have there's a lot of ammo for Ryan Poles this offseason. So we got a lot to look forward to.
Cap space too. Lots of cap space still. Free agency is going to be fun to talk about as well. And yeah, there's it's going to be another eventful offseason for the Bears.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see. Let's quickly here. I'll see if I can go through the questions and comments for a couple seconds before we sign off, Sean. I see Mike B says, anyone have a thought about potentially trading for a coach like Mike Tomlin? Sean, I saw that report from ESPN over the holiday weekend. Did you see that? And what do you think?
I mean, yes, but I don't think you're going to want to give up a first-round pick. I don't know what exactly it would realistically cost to get a guy like Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin is a coach that I would absolutely. I think the players would respect the heck out of that dude. He's proven that he can win games even when his team's not very good. So yeah, that's the type of coach that I think every franchise is looking for. I don't know if you're going to want to be spending draft capital to get him. What's from what I was hearing is he only got 1 more year on his contract anyway.
Yeah. So you're not going to make, what's interesting that, like, are you going to make Mike Tomlin, who's been there for 20 years, something like that now, be a lame duck going into the final? It's interesting.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know if they'd want to do that. Yeah.
I have a hard time justifying giving up a first round pick for a head coach, but with that being said, Mike Tomlin would be a slam dunk hire for the Chicago Bears, both for the on-field, the locker room. That the fan base would eat it up. And I'll say this. I think the McCaskies would very much love the idea of a franchise, of leading a franchise that has a black president, a black GM, and a black head coach. I think that's pretty cool and something that the McCaskey family would embrace.
I do too.
Everything about Mike Tomlin and the Bears makes sense. I'll say that it's just the draft capital that you would have to give up to get that done, at least this offseason, unless the Steelers part ways with Mike Tomlin after the season, which I don't think is a super high chance, but I probably put it at like a 20-25% chance.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, if there's a team that's willing to give up a draft pick, no matter where that winds up being, if it's a first, if it's a second, if it's a third, whatever, I think you would probably try to get something for him. But yeah, that's certainly a possibility too.
Yeah. Mike Ibsen checks in and says, "What are the odds that Ian Cunningham will leave this offseason?" Talking about the Bears' assistant general manager. Sean, have you heard anything at all about Ian Cunningham?
I haven't heard anything concrete, but I know he had interviews last year, and so I would imagine he's going to get interviews again. And yeah, I mean, he's one of those rising stars in the GM world. He's of course the Bears' assistant general manager to Ryan Poles. I think he will be a GM eventually. Is it going to happen this year? It's possible. A lot of teams are looking for those. He like Ryan Poles is a younger guy, and that's sort of what teams have been looking for in recent years. Trying to get new thoughts in the building, people who embrace the analytics and stuff like that. I think Ian Cunningham is going to be a GM eventually. I do believe that, and even just the brief chances I've had to talk with him, he seems like a really smart dude. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but it could, and it absolutely could.
Yeah, it's happening sooner or later, whether it's this year, next year, sometime in the near future. Ian Cunningham is going to be an NFL GM, and the fact that the Bears appear to have had a second strong draft bodes well for Ian Cunningham's chances.
And
here.
he was, of course, he was with the Eagles before that, and he helped build, what became the Eagles we know now. For several years there.
Yeah. Let's see. There was something else. Oh, here, Rick Gonzalez. Rick Gonzalez says, "Pay JJ for Christ's sake." Jalen Johnson. Do you remember, like halfway through the season, we were talking about Jalen Johnson, whether he deserved to reset the cornerback market. I gotta say, Jalen Johnson playing like a man that deserves to reset the cornerback market. Sean.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard him. He does a regular spot on the score every week. I don't know if you heard him this past week, but I think they asked him, if the conversations are happening again, and he sort of indicated that he and his side said, let's play out the season, and let's hold that thought, and if you're Jalen, like, yeah, you're playing really well. Obviously, you hope that the Bears can get something done with him, but I think he's probably played his way into more money, and that's. I still think I think you should pay him. I mean, I think he's one of the best cornerbacks in football. And, you look at all these lists for that all these football sites are putting out for the top free agents. I mean, he's going to be one of the highest paid dudes if he hits the open market. Obviously the Bears could franchise tag him, and that's probably not going to happen, but pay the guy. Pay
that man his money. I got to remember that Sean is not going to get movie references when I make them.
Movies go over my head. What was that one?
That was Rounders. That was a Rounders reference. I'm assuming you have not seen Rounders, right?
I have not seen Rounders. Okay. Guys are going to be all over me in the comments now.
All right. Well, Sean, anything we haven't
yeah, there is a game this weekend.
There is. The Bears are still playing football games, aren't they?
Let me just throw this out there. Darnell Mooney has been out all week with a concussion. He reported that on Monday himself. And Cole Kmet has not practiced at all with that same knee injury he suffered in the game.
Do you think is he done? Do you think,
like Cole?
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. If he's back at practice in any capacity on Friday, I think we'll see him before the end of the year. The concussions are weird. Obviously, with the concussion protocol, there's a lot of things going on there. I don't know if Darnell is going to be back at this point. As of right now, without the Friday injury report out yet, the Bears could be down 2 of their top 3 pass catchers, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on DJ Moore and some other guys, Tyler Scott, to step up, and Equanimeous St. Brown if he's available. And
we're getting some Velus Jones action, maybe.
Yeah, we had some Velus Jones talk yesterday with Tyke Tolbert, the wide receivers coach. So yeah,
you looked very excited talking about that, Sean. You're like, yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, all right, Tyler Scott, let's go. And Tyke starts talking about Velus, and I'm like, oh yeah, him.
Velus is still here.
So yeah, we'll see in a couple of hours what the injury report has, but those are the big ones.
All right, we picking the Bears this week?
I'm picking the Bears, even if those guys are out. I think they're going to win this game. I think their defense is going to have a good day against a Falcons team that can't seem to figure out what it's doing at quarterback.
Yeah, Alan asked the question: better chance of Bears winning this week or next? I think this week. One, it's at home. One, it's at home, and two, I'm not a big fan of Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff for some of the pieces that they have on that roster. I really like. I think that is a coaching staff that is actively hurting that team and finds ways to lose games that they shouldn't, and even games where they do end up winning, they make it more difficult than it should be. I think the Bears win this game. I think, a lot of this depends on the weather this weekend. It's outdoor in Chicago late. I'd like to see a big game from Justin Fields. I'd like to see the big passing game here.
Yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity to do that. It's going to be chilly, but there shouldn't be. The forecasts look like there's not going to be any precipitation or anything like that. Yeah, I agree. Like, everyone's asking, Bears coaches and players about Bijan Robinson, and it's like you look at how the Falcons are using him. It's like, man, I understand why we're asking the questions. He was a first-round pick. He's a stud running back, but like a couple of weeks ago, they gave him 7 carries. I don't understand what the Falcons are doing.
I have no idea what Arthur Smith has been doing all season long. Terry Bradshaw absolutely lit into him this past weekend about the Desmond Ridder fiasco down there.
Yeah.
I think Arthur Smith is probably as good as gone at the end of this year. So anyway, sounds like we're both picking the Bears. We're going to go ahead and get out of here.
I'm taking the Bears too, Kyle. I'm taking the Bears. I think they win this game with or without Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney.
All right. Thank you, everyone who joined us live this morning. For Sean Hammond, I am Kyle Nabors. Everyone have a great New Year's weekend. We'll be with you guys next week to break down this win. I'm already counting it as a win.
Mark it now. Put a check mark in the win column.
Yes, we're breaking down the Bears Falcons. We'll talk to you guys next week. Talk to you guys later.